Hi, sixth graders. We're on lesson 5-7, which is dividing fractions and mixed numbers. Label the top of your notes so that you know that we're on lesson 5-7 and that you know which concept we are working on. And our learning target is being able to divide fractions. So the most important thing to remember when we are dividing fractions is keep, change, flip. You want to write this down at the top and circle it. Keep, change, flip. And then I want you to take a moment and write down these steps on dividing fractions. So if you want to pause me, write this down and then we will go over it. So the first step is that we need to convert to improper fractions. We are going to keep the first fraction, change the sign to multiplication, flip the second fraction, and then multiply and write in simplest form. So we will go over that in one moment. I want you to practice really quick converting mixed numbers to improper fractions. So pause me again and do these conversions. So 5 1/2 is the same as 2 times 5 plus 1. So 10 plus 1, oops, that should be a plus, is 11 halves. 2 1/3, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so 7 thirds. 5 2/3, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17 thirds. Really important to be able to understand this. Remember, we take our denominator, multiply it by the whole number, and then add the numerator, keep the denominator. All right, when we are dividing fractions, our first step says to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions. Here's our first example. We do not have any mixed numbers, so we can skip that step. The second step says to keep the first fraction. So that's what that keep means. We're going to keep it as 4/7. Then it says to change the sign. So that's what our change is. So actually I'm going to write this right under here. We're going to keep 4/7. We are going to change the sign to multiplication. And then we are going to flip the second fraction to 9/8. So we literally flip the denominator to the numerator, flip the numerator to the denominator, and then we multiply. Now that we're experts on multiplication, I'm going to show you a trick of simplifying before we multiply. So as long as we're looking at we need to be comparing and contrasting our numerators to our denominators. So I can see in my numerator and my denominator that I have a 4 and an 8, and they can both be divided by 4. So I'm actually going to simplify. 4 divided by 4 gives me 1. 8 divided by 4 gives me 2. So therefore, it's easier to multiply. Now we multiply fractions just like we know how to do. 1 times 9 is 9. 7 times 2 is 14, and then it is already in simplest form. If we didn't simplify before, we would end up with 36 over 56, and then we'd simplify and we would still get 9/14. Okay, let's look at another one. 9/7 divided by 3/14. No mixed fractions, so we don't need to do converting yet. Keep 9/7. It's really, really, really important when we're dividing fractions to rewrite the problem. Do not try to do it just in your head because it's really easy to get mixed up. 9/7 times, and then I flip it, so I have 14 thirds. Now I see that I can simplify quick before I multiply. I can do 9 divided by 3 and then 3 divided by 3 and get 1. So now we have 14 times 3. 14 times 2 I know is 28, and then add another 14 would be 42. 7 times 1 is 7. So 42 sevenths, I need to convert to a mixed number, which 42 sevenths gives me an even 6, so then my answer is just 6. So remember, keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, and flip. Pause me and do these two on your own, and then come back and check your answers. So we keep 2/3. We change to multiplication, and we flip to 4/1. So 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. I need to change it to a mixed number. I know that 3 goes into 8 2 times, so 3 times 2 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2, so I have 2 left over. And then I keep the denominator. So your answer should be 2 2/3. 1/5 divided by 1/4. We take 1/5 and then we change it to multiplication. Flip my second fraction to 4/1. And then we multiply. 1 times 4 is 4. 5 times 1 is 5. And then it's already in simplest form, so we leave it as 4/5. When we are dividing by fractions, what we are doing is, as we know, it's the opposite of multiplying. So we know when we multiply by a fraction, our number is getting smaller. So because it's the opposite of multiplying by fractions, when we divide by fractions, our number actually gets bigger. So if we take 1/5 and we're dividing it by 1/4, our answer should be bigger than 1/5. Okay, we're going to talk about that in class, why our answer is bigger, but just make sure that your answer is reasonable and it's making sense. All right, if we have 5/8 divided by 10, the first thing that we need to do is, if we have a whole number, we need to turn that into a fraction, and the way to do that is to make it that number over 1. So I have 5/8, change it to multiplication, flip it to 1/10. I see that I have a 5 and a 10, so I can cross cancel is what it's called. 5 divided by 5, oh, this is why I shouldn't do this as I'm talking. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. 8 times 2 is 16. That is just a lot easier to see our factors and multiples together instead of doing 5/80 and then simplifying that way. Although we totally can do it that way, it just takes a little bit longer. If we have a mixed number, this is where that first step comes in. We need to convert it to an improper fraction. So now I have 3 times 7 is 21 plus 1, so I have 22 thirds. I'm going to change it to multiplication, and then 2 is the same as 2/1, remember, so now it's 1/2. (22) divided by 2 is 11. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we have 11 times 1 is 11. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 goes into 11 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. So 11 minus 9 is 2. And then keep my denominator. And I can always check that to make sure. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 2 is 11. And I get 11/3. Okay, I want you to pause me and do these two problems on your own. Come back and check your answers. 4 1/4, I convert to 4 times 4 is 16 plus 1, so I have 17/4. And then I change it to multiplication, flip it to 8/3. I'm going to cross cancel here. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 17 times 2 is 34. 1 times 3 is 3. I know that 3 goes into 34 11 times. 11 times 3 is 33. I have 1 left over and keep my denominator. 3 times 11 is 33, plus 1 is 34 thirds. Here, I have 6 2/3 and 3 1/9. So before I even flip my division sign, I'm going to convert both of these to improper fractions. So you may have gotten a little bit confused. So 3 times 16 is, or 3 times 6 is 18 plus 2, so I have 20 thirds. For now, I'm going to keep my division sign. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 1. I have 28 ninths. Now, I'm going to rewrite it as my keep. And there's my change to multiplication. And now I'm going to flip. My second fraction. Okay, I'm going to cross cancel out a few things. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. See how they're diagonal from each other? And I'm doing the same exact thing. It's kind of like a numerator and denominator, finding, simplifying, or equivalent fractions. I have to do the same thing. So here I divided both by 3. 20 and 28, I know I can divide them both by 4. So I'm going to make that a 5, and I'm going to make that a 7, because 28 divided by 4 is 7. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 7 is 7. 7 goes into 15 2 times with 1 left over, and my denominator is 7. So 2 1/7. We will go over this cross-canceling more in class. We'll also go over the more problems that have mixed numbers. But make sure you remember, you always convert to improper fractions, keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, flip your second fraction. Go back and rewatch any more problems if you would like. Otherwise, go into NICU and take your 5-7 dividing fractions NICU quiz. See you tomorrow.